Coming up on the Together for Good podcast, I am speaking with Pastor Eric Shafer. He is the pastor in residence for Global Refuge, which is this great organization that works with immigrants and refugees. Obviously, a very timely subject. Eric has a lot to share about the good work that Global Refuge is doing in our world and how you can help and support this. It's a great conversation. Can't wait to share it with you. Here we go. Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good. Welcome, everybody, to the Together for Good podcast. I'm on a Teams call with Pastor Eric Shafer. He is the pastor in residence at Global Refuge. And when I asked him before we hit record about that title, he said, yes, I made it up. So, Eric, let's start there. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking time with this. Tell us a little bit, about what you do with Global Refuge and your made-up title over there.
Okay, thank you. Hey, I really appreciate this chance to be with you. It's a privilege. So I retired from parish ministry, which was my last call in 2022, immediately flunked retirement and went to work for Global Refuge.
Good for you.
And I've been enjoying every day since for the past 4 years. So I'm getting up to 4 years doing this. And I needed a title, so I thought, well, pastor in residence makes some sense. So there it is. My main responsibilities are to go out into Lutheran congregations and others and talk about the ministry of Global Refuge. I'm trying to raise friends and frankly trying to raise money for our ministry. My focus territory is what the ELCA calls Region 2, and that's such inside baseball talk, but as you know, that includes Colorado and California.
Yep.
And the rest of your synod. So your synod is one of my 5 synods that I focus on. Just finished an amazing week, and we should talk more about this.
Yeah.
I also go to synod assemblies. I was at Rocky Mountain, and I was just at the Southwest California Synod Assembly, where our CEO, Chris O'Mara Vignaraja, was the keynote speaker.
Wow.
And while she was here, we did a number of other activities, including a major donor event on Sunday at a donated mansion in Beverly Hills. And on Sunday morning, I was at Trinity Lutheran Church in Manhattan Beach, along with Chris, for them to hand us a check for $25,000.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, Chris said it was the largest single gift they've gotten from a Lutheran congregation. There are Lutheran congregations that in a year's time have given more. But as far as one check, one gift, it was the largest, certainly the largest in recent times. So it was a pretty exciting weekend. I'm pretty exhausted, as you can imagine. And since I'm the person in California, a lot of this was rolling around me, but I had a lot of good help. And of course, we had 5 staff here, including me, working on this. It was really wonderful.
Wow. What I want to know about, given the current political climate, and everything going on with immigration and refugee resettlement, I would be so interested to hear you talk about why you came up with the title of pastor in residence and how this work really does align with your larger call that you've been living out for a very long time. But I think that's very, very poignant and very profound that it's a pastor doing these works. And I'd love to just hear you reflect on, how you're able to do that, where you see those things connecting.
Well, Nate, this month I'm celebrating 50 years of being ordained.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Incredible.
And in that time, I've had 3 congregation calls. I was communication director for the ELCA. That was my longest stint. I worked for the Hallmark Channel, the religion partners in the Hallmark Channel. And I worked for a synod bishop. So I've done a little bit of everything, and my wife and I have been all over the country. And the last congregation call was in Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. And then we stayed here in California for the retirement that I flunked immediately. I think that I was I've always been interested in this work, and I was on the President's Council while I was still in the congregation of Global Refuge. And as Andrew Steele, who's my immediate supervisor, talked with me, they were very eager to have an ordained person on the staff, even though it's only part-time. We now have several ordained people on the staff
Okay.
because they realized why are we doing work with refugees? Well, because Jesus told us to. It's the right thing to do. It's historical for our country. It's historical for our church, but it's biblical. More than 100 texts in what we call the Old and New Testament, very straightforward commands by Jesus to be kind to the stranger, the alien and the refugee. And so it's a natural part of our Lutheran DNA. It is a natural part of my DNA. So it becomes just an honor. They needed a title. In residence is kind of odd because I spend my time traveling. But the point was, I think, and this is part of my shtick whenever I talk to a congregation, I don't think you can be a Christian and not be in favor of immigrants and refugees. I actually say that even stronger. I don't think you can be a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim and not be in favor of immigrants and refugees because it's so basic to our Abrahamic faiths.
I want to dig in more to your comment about, the way you say you put it strongly in congregations, that it's almost impossible to be a Christian or Muslim or a Jew and not be supportive of immigrants and refugees. And if you could just extrapolate out on that a little bit more. Obviously, it's a very bold claim. And as you mentioned, there are an immense number of scripture passages in particular, I'm thinking of a lot of moments in the prophet Jeremiah where he's yelling at the leaders of Israel and saying, like, you forgot the orphan and the widow and the immigrant, and this is why God is punishing you now. Like, it's that direct, at least in those verses that I'm thinking of. But yeah, just to hear more from you about that strong claim.
Sure. Whenever I get invited and they say, pick a text, I would just not always say, well, Matthew 25, when I was hungry, when I was this, when I was that. And, that's just so, Jesus makes it pretty clear who's on the right and who's on the left.
Yeah.
In the kingdom of God. And you don't get clear. I was a stranger in a strange land and you welcomed me from Deuteronomy. Paul's letter, as I said, there's over 100 texts in both in the Torah, in the Quran, and the New Testament.
What do you say when you get pushback from people? Because I'm sure there are many, even in the congregations that you visit, who are less supportive of immigration. And it's obviously just such a big topic in the national discourse right now. And I won't lead the witness too much. I'm just kind of curious, how you approach that and how you work with people who might be coming from a different viewpoint than you.
Sure. As you might imagine, I'm not often invited to congregations that are hostile to our work.
Of course.
And in 4 years, I've had 4 people walk out. The fun story is it was in Colorado. I'm at a Saturday night service in a large congregation, and there's a pastor on either side of me. And during my sermon, this couple walks out. The pastors both look at me and say, "We don't know who that is." And this was a very progressive congregation, very welcoming, very open. And, and they said to me, they were obviously looking around and just came to the wrong place, and which is sad, but reality. So I don't often get pushback in that sense. And part of that is this historical commitment to refugee work that Lutherans have.
Yeah.
When it was still possible to do refugees, it was either the Catholics or the Lutherans placing the most refugees every year. Think of that a minute. How many Catholics are there in the U.S.? 100 million?
Yeah.
I'm guessing. How many Lutherans are there in the U.S.? Well, in our church, it's 3 million now? So, and here we are. And that's, and that's, I think, because we do take these texts seriously. And maybe one of the great churches say we've always done it this way. Well, in this case, that's a good thing. So, our history is, as you may know, that we started in 1939 saving professors and pastors from Nazi Germany. And then in 1945, when 1/6 of the world Lutherans were refugees, we really hit our stride. And, then through every world crisis that involved refugees, we were the leader in receiving them to the USA. With a huge group in the 1970s after Vietnam and Cambodia conflicts ended, we're upwards. There were 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 coming in, and we were receiving many, many of those. It's just.
And I think I appreciate you saying that too, because I think what we often do, and it's the strategy of a way to get people on your side about it too, is we just conflate details. And so people think about illegal immigration and they hear sound bites about drug trafficking and all of these pieces. And that is, first and foremost, a very small reality of the overall immigration process, but it's also completely separate from the refugee process, which is people who are fleeing countries that are in turmoil in order to come to a safer location. Is that a fair way to put that?
I think that's a fair way to put it. The definition of a refugee is someone whose life would be in danger if they stayed where they are. That's oversimplifying, but that's basically the UN's definition of a refugee. Fleeing oppression of some kind by either religion or, national origin or politics.
From the faith angle, I really see, I like the way you put it. Anyone who is not safe where they are. Is that how did you define refugee again? You said something along those lines.
Refugee is someone who's unable to return to their country of origin owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinions.
And so when you put it like that, you can hear where the Christian inclination and call to love our neighbor fits so perfectly. And this is always my lament, is it feels like everything gets so over politicized when I want to talk about Jesus and discipleship and our call as Christians and how we show up in the world. And it gets muddy because it feels like you're making a political statement one way or another. But if we said no, the goal of Global Refuge is to help people who cannot stay where they're at. They are sheep without a shepherd, to use Jesus's language. They need a safer place to be, and we're going to help make that possible. And that doesn't say anything about what you think of the administration or what this, that, or the other thing. It is saying this is a person in need, and we're going to help settle them so they can be in a safer place. I think that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Yeah, please push back on that if I'm getting anything wrong.
It becomes political because Jesus said it so clearly. I mean, so if you're anti-refugee and you think you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, I'm going to say, huh? And so I think that's it. And through our welcome centers, especially, we do serve, undocumented people. Of course, we serve anybody that comes to our door. So we still have three welcome centers in Baltimore, Fargo, North Dakota, and San Antonio. The Pacifica Synod is opening one in San Diego in the next few weeks.
Wow.
It won't be obviously a lot of publicity for obvious reasons. And we are talking about trying to get some legal services from Global Refuge into the Los Angeles area also. We're working on funding for that.
I really appreciate how multifaceted it is. You have these welcome centers, and is the goal of a welcome center to just be those sort of spaces where people can get some resources as soon as they arrive, right? Like, hey, let me show you the process that you might need to go through. Or is it that type of legal advice? Is it more practical every day? Let's get you set up with some possible apartments. Like, what do the welcome centers do exactly?
The quick answer is yes, and yes
Okay.
to all that.
Yeah, but it's holistic.
In the traditional refugee model, and you probably participated them in your own life too, the local congregation or other sponsors meets the people at the airport, has the apartment ready for them, stocks the refrigerator, helps them get the job and the schooling and those kind of things. And then we, through our caseworkers, through our LSS agencies, track those people in the long run. And so 6 months later, they call the LSS agency or they come to the Welcome Center with an additional request for help. Often those come through the congregation. Sometimes they come direct from the refugee. Our congregations keep track of people too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so right now it's legal help, as you can imagine. People are frightened and they need an attorney. But it's normally, yeah, can you help me find a better job? What do you hear? So yeah, we're working with the long-term people. We're working with anybody. The new people we're seeing are not new to the country, but they're new to our services.
And it's where I really appreciate an organization like Global Refuge, where we're just trying to zoom, right? You're trying to zoom out from that and be like, hey, there are people who are in need, who have real needs, and we are situated to help and assist them so that they can escape, difficult situations. Like a refugee is a refugee is a refugee. And so, and I as I read the Gospels, I see that Jesus is always willing to respond to the needs that cross his path. He doesn't often go places with an agenda. He's like walking from here to there, and then somewhere in between, there's a leper on the road who says, hey, please heal me. And that's where Jesus chooses to spend his time and respond. And that's kind of what I hear you reflecting for Global Refuge, right? If a refugee is asking for help, we want to respond and come alongside them and help them find a safe and secure, settled place in our country. But let me play devil's advocate. What's the limit to this? Because I can hear that's what some people would say is like, well, we can't just have open borders. If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a country at all. And like, we can't just welcome in everybody all the time. Like, how do you respond to that type of pushback?
And we have always said that we need order at the borders.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like immigration reform is something everyone agrees on. We just don't agree on how to do it.
Well, some of us think that if Ted Kennedy and John McCain had lived a little longer, they were working on a bipartisan effort to do it. Here's the thing. It's a biblical command. We need the workers. It isn't as if we have massive unemployment, as you know, in this country, and all the efforts to employ other people and farm workers have failed. We need these people. So there needs to be a more robust way to deal with the people coming over the border, wanting to come over the border who aren't in the normal process.
Mm-hmm.
And so traditionally they've been these three areas. You have the traditional refugees that we've talked about. Then you have refugees here who are under special protected status by the president: Ukrainians, Afghans, Haitians, some Central Americans. And that's a matter of debate right now of continuing those. And then you have the people that come across undocumented, that other people say illegally. But if they're requesting asylum, as you heard me say, we just need some order in all three of those areas, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're going to be a compassionate country, we should be receiving people through each of those areas. The emergency ones, like a war, where the president says special status, or the people being, forced out by gangs in Central America that can't come through a process. So before 2025, we were the largest agency working with the undocumented children who came across the border. The ages 18 and under is ages 2 or 3 or 4 coming across alone. So we're still an agency in the federal government for the children. Of the other thing, we're still working through our LSS agencies with children all over the country who came in here, foster care, trying to find their families, all those things. And so that's a really
it's a really important piece. And those are the things that just always break your heart when you hear about those situations and you wonder, what caused it for a child to feel like this was their only solution, and then how do we support them in this new country where they might not even know the language? Like, that's just an overwhelming set of circumstances. Yeah.
So we should say, before we get too far, we should talk about what people can do if they're hearing this and saying, I'd
Please,
like
that
to.
was going to be one of my questions. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And I usually say there are a number of things you can do. One is give money. Obviously, we were cut off from funds to help the refugees who were already here legally, who were to receive money for a limited time to the federal government to get themselves settled. So we've been playing catch up. And so we've had to, and then we've also then had to expand our efforts in legal and counseling services and all those things. So obviously, funds are an important need. And people can give by going to globalrefuge.org and follow the giving page.
You got it.
We have a new training program for congregations called Faith Alliance. It's a 4-session training where congregations can look at the issues, look at immigration history, and determine what they might want to do to be more welcoming. That's globalrefuge.org/Faith Alliance. You can find those materials. They're brand new and they've been well received. I was with 5 congregations over the weekend that have been doing it. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's something, there's something. And there are a lot of other resources on our website for congregations and for Christian and Lutheran individuals. Prayers, worship services, more activities. And then the whole matter of advocacy. And so contact with our senators and congresspeople, important. And I've been emphasizing, especially here in California, that even if there are people that we know are supportive, they need to hear from us too, because they're certainly hearing from others. Important. So giving, material, participating, training, advocacy, and then, of course, all the things you can do locally to help immigrants, going with them to appointments, visiting people in detention centers. And you have areas and you have interfaith groups in Denver doing that, for example. So we don't organize the local work, but our LSS agencies often do, and other locals. And then I always end by saying prayer.
Yeah.
Prayer for a change of heart. Prayers for our refugee neighbors and friends. Those are some of the things that we do. And many people looking at this can do at least some of what I just said. We can all pray. Many of us could give. Many of us can look at the materials on the website. I was with people in California last weekend and talking to people who'd used our training. And one gentleman said, well, I decided to do the training by myself. Help me. Okay. We didn't envision it that way, but okay.
Yeah.
Because he felt better informed. All right. And that's great. So those are some of the things that we can do. I'm also accepting invitations from congregations. I'm taking reservations for the fall and for the new year. At this point, Eric C. Shafer at hotmail.com. So there's 2 C's in there. Eric C. Shafer at hotmail.com.
That's great. And we'll put all these details in the description, in the notes for the episode itself, if people want to find it that way. But I mean, thank you for sharing all that too. It's just nice to know the plethora of options and ways to support, but also to continue the conversation. I imagine a lot of those resources, training sessions, right, worship services and prayers, all that is great material for congregations who are wondering, like, what can we do? That, you hear about it on the news all the time. This is being talked about, and it's in your Bible to care about it. Education is always one of the first places to start in my mind. Get people together, find out where folks are at, create the safe spaces for the conversations to happen, because it is so politicized. It can be pretty contentious, and if you can work past that, it can be some of the most life-giving conversation as well, as you learn from one another. Yeah, how they ended up in these places. Yeah, and then where we move forward.
June brings World Refugee Day, and we have a worship service for World Refugee Day on our website, but it can be used anytime during the year. And so that's...
Yeah, thanks. What's the date on the World Refugee Day?
It's a little floating, but it's toward the end of the month. Often the last Sunday of the month or the second to last Sunday of the month.
Okay.
Many congregations celebrate Pride Sunday, the last Sunday of the month, so you'd probably just pick another. But you can do that anytime.
No, that's good to know, and it's a great way to kind of bringing awareness to this part of our Christian calling.
Talking about the history, Lutherans have always done
We've always done it this way.
It's in our history as a nation, and especially in our DNA as Lutherans.
Eric, thanks for sharing so much of your heart and your passion for this work and just the great things that Global Refuge is doing for our neighbors. I think that's the best way to put it. This is the work that you're doing for our neighbors, who we are called to love. And thank you just for being so generous with your time too, and being willing to come on here. Any last words before we sign off?
Besides anchoring all of this in prayer, I want to anchor all of it in thank you. Congregations in your synod and around the country have been so generous. We've had record years, the last 2 years, with support from Lutherans and Lutheran congregations. We're just so grateful. The point is, that just shows how much it is in what we are as Lutherans, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Well, I'm grateful for you, and thank you for just taking the time and sharing all of this with us. And you, dear listener, thank you for watching. Share this with family and friends who might want to learn more about the good work of Global Refuge. And as always, stay in peace, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.